Hi, this is Priyanka Chopra and you're watching Channel Y.
The biggest South Asian media group, Y Media. Y Media has newspaper, midweek, radio, South Asian Pulse.
Hi, I'm Amitabh Bachchan and you're listening to South Asian Pulse.
Hi, this is Amir Khan and you're listening to South Asian Pulse.
अब हर दिन सुने GTA का नंबर 1 रेडियो स्टेशन FM 91.9.
You are watching Channel Y. Channel Y.
Prime Minister, welcome.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be back.
Online, SouthAsianDaily.com. The biggest South Asian media group, Y Media.
Hello everyone, welcome to Y Media Group. I am your host, Shelly Seni. June 26th is not very far, the day when voters in Toronto will go out and pick the new mayor for their city. Who is it going to be? We at Y Media Group have been doing an extensive coverage of the Toronto's mayoral race, under which we have been giving you exactly what the campaign promises are being made by each and every candidate. And we have been conducting exclusive interviews with the candidates. And today, as part of this exclusive series, I have with me Anna BAILÃO. Welcome. How are you?
I'm great, Shelly. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
It's wonderful to have you on this platform, and we really want to know. We have been listening, a couple of announcements you have been making, and you have been very vocal in terms of what you want for the city of Toronto. But how is your vision, your plan for the city of Toronto different from the other candidates? And we are talking about 101 candidates apart from you.
I came to this country when I was 15 years old. And not an easy age, right? You're a teenager, you leave everything behind, you have to learn a new language. But what really had an impact on me, it was how I felt this sense of opportunity because this city really worked. We had services that worked. The TTC worked. Our parks were working. Our seniors had services. My aunt, who was, the elder of the family, she had access to services here. So that felt really important. And people had access to housing. My parents were able to buy a house a couple years after we arrived. And I feel like we're losing that. It's not hearing from people. And for me, that's what I'm focused on. How do I make sure that we fix those key services to the city? Services like the TTC, like recreational services, like senior services, like the way that we move around, and build housing. I think it is really important just to, make life easier and more affordable for people. People are just coming out of the pandemic. People are tired. They're struggling. Everything went up on price, everything. So I want to make sure that I make life easier and more affordable. And I think what is going to distinguish me is the recognition of this affordability issue. You have candidates like Olivia Chow that are talking about increasing taxes, which with everything going up, I believe the last thing people need is property tax increases, major property tax increases, like she is proposing. So we need to make sure that we have a mayor that is going to be making life easier and more affordable. I have 12 years at council, 5 as deputy mayor. I know how to get the job done. I have the support of councillors. 5 of them already made it public, their endorsement for me as the next mayor of Toronto. Support from labor, from business. I bring the job done. And I think that's what the city needs, is to have a mayor that is going to get the job done. It's going to focus on the key services and the housing to make life easier and more affordable.
Don't you think the rich experience that you're coming with will also have people ask you questions? Aren't you also answerable for the conditions the city is in right now? Why are we here where we are? Why is the situation so dire?
Well, I think that people realize that the pandemic really, turned our lives upside down, and it turned the city upside down. We do have a big budget pressure, $1.5 billion budget pressure. That is from the pandemic. Our ridership in the TTC, half of our budget pressure is because the ridership is still so low. It's been low and it continues to be low. We need to attract people back to the TTC. And the way that we do that is we need to make it safe, and we need to make it reliable. So making sure that we have the services on time, making sure that we reverse the cuts, making sure that we have more staff, from everything, from cleaners to supervisors to our constables. We need to make sure people feel safe in our system to come back. So the pressure that the pandemic put on the services, that some of them were already struggling with the growth. Toronto is a fast growing city. We're growing very fast. And so it is really important that we are focused back on the basics, like I say, on those services, realizing that we're not coming out of the pandemic the way that we should. And we need the provincial and the federal government to be at the table. They have been in the first few years of the pandemic. They've been, coming to the table with funds, but we really need predictable funding, right? We can't just run the city asking for a check at the end of the year every year. We need to work together to make sure that that we provide these services. The premier usually says there's one taxpayer. I actually agree with him on that. And that's why I've been talking about the province to take responsibility back of the Gardiner and the DVP. I am running on this. As mayor, I want the province to take responsibility over the Gardiner and the DVP, because that money needs to be used to fix the TTC. The Gardiner and the DVP used to be provincial highways. They over 50% of the people that drive on those highways don't live in Toronto, and only the taxpayers of Toronto are paying for the maintenance and the upkeep. And that doesn't happen in other cities around us. So it's a fairness issue, but it's also a need to use that money to fix something that is actually creating so much pressure in our budget, in which the province is coming at the end of the year to fix that anyways. So it's a pragmatic solution, which is, as I am very pragmatic. I will be a mayor that is pragmatic, that is common sense, that brings people together and get.
But you know what? Pragmatism on your end, yes, that will definitely be a highlight for the people of Toronto. But what about the other side? What if the province refuses, gives up, and lifts the hands off that no, we will not take the Gardiner and DVP back? Then do we have a plan B? How do we put in money in TTC then?
Sheila, two things. So credit where credit is due. They have been coming at the end of every year with a check to support it. I'd have the check come at the end of the year. Let's actually talk about a permanent solution. But I've seen this before. In 2011, in my first term as councillor, Mayor Rob Ford was trying to sell Toronto community housing homes to pay for the backlog. There was a $2.6 billion repairs that needed to be done to Toronto community housing. And the mayor said, we don't have money, so we're going to sell 800 homes. And to me, that made no sense, because there's such a big waiting list. It made no sense to sell the home. So I stopped the sale. I was able to rally council, get enough votes to stop the sale. And at the time, whether a plan, go to the other orders of government to collaborate with us and to pay for the repair backlog. And I heard exactly the same thing. This is no plan. You can't do that. I don't take no for an answer. The reality is I didn't take a no for an answer back then. And I had a deal today. There's a fully funded plan of $2.6 billion Toronto community between the city and other orders of government. We stopped the sale. Are now have people living in those units with dignity, and we have a fully funded plan. So I've done it before. I have a track record for an answer.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah, that is definitely something assuring for people to hear that no, I will not take no for an answer and I will get the work done. But you also mentioned that we need definitive checks, definitive money coming in because Toronto is already going through a budget deficit. How will you seal the deal with the province and the federal government in terms of financial assistance?
You know what? There's one thing that governments really pay attention to is voters. That's why I'm running on this, because I will have the mandate from the voters of Toronto. You know, other candidates, nobody's talking about this issue, right? Nobody's talking about how they're going to solve the $1.5 billion, how they're going to solve the backlog. I am actually running on this. I will have a mandate, clear mandate from the people of Toronto, which are the same voters, by the way. There's 25 MPPs, 25 MPs that are elected in Toronto. And I will be making sure that people understand and know what the federal and the provincial government is delivering for this city and how we're working together. We need to work on transit, we need to work on housing, but we need to work on the fiscal sustainability of this city.
Right. We have been talking about affordability, housing, and there has been a lot of announcements around these lines on the TTC and safety. But when we talk about safety, I haven't heard much about safety within schools. Recently, TDSP said that more than 300 students within the board within the school premises were involved in violent incidents. Now that is a humongous number. We are talking about students, kids who are innocent, right? Who should be just thinking about learning, gaining knowledge, and not be engaged in violent activities. What do you think is happening? What is breaking down within the schools?
Well, I think those are, what is happening in the schools or in our neighborhoods or in our community centers is a symptom of, what we're living through as a city, right? And there's no question that, again, the pandemic has had an impact on the youth. So making sure that we have mental health supports for our youth, making sure that we have the recreational supports. Just today, I made an announcement that I'm going to fast track, playgrounds, fields, splash pads, so making sure that there's activities, sports activities for the youth is extremely important. And that us as a city have those facilities to make sure that those are available for the youth in our city. And at the same time, it is really important that we fund programs like the neighborhood program in our police service. I'm committed to doing that. As mayor, I believe in a well-funded police focused on community relationships like the neighborhood program so that they know the neighborhood, they know the youth, they know what the issues, and that they focus on crime as well. At the same time, I also believe that we need to invest in expanding the community crisis unit, which is a unit that was created to respond to people in mental health distress or homeless situations, others. That needs to be expanded to 100% so that we actually have the resources in our police services for what they need to focus on, which is the crime and building relationships with communities and expanding programs like our neighborhood program.
Right. And let's talk about integrity as well here. You yourself were 15-year-old when you came here in Toronto. So if I can take you back to that time, what was it for you? Because you are already a teenager who must have had her own circle, her own aspirations and dreams with a set friends. But then you leave the country, you leave those friends, you come to a new country, a new culture. What was it for you back then? And was it easy for you to integrate in Toronto back then?
No. It wasn't. And it seems like you've heard this story before because you described exactly what happened to me, right? It was exactly what you mentioned. You're 15 years old, you have all your friends, you don't know the language. I didn't know English very well. I was very close to my grandmother, so my grandmother didn't come with us. She stayed back in Portugal, so it was tough. It was really tough. And I got here in June, so I at least it was warm, so that was good. It gave me a few months to adapt until the winter came. But those first few months, it was just looking around at what the city could offer, and it was really the city that made me feel welcome. The difference of, oh, things work in here, and I got a part-time job a couple of months after, and I was so proud of it. I had my own money. It meant that I was going to be able to go to university, and
Right.
I would take the TTC home every day around 9:30, 10 o'clock at night with my mom. We worked together. She had a day job and a night job, and at night we would come home, and we felt safe. And it was actually that those feelings that made me get into politics, that made me get involved in the community. I have to be honest with you. I was not the little girl that had a dream about being a politician. It wasn't. I studied to be sociology. My plan was to be a social worker, but it was my community involvement, my passion to make sure that people have access to good services, that workers can live in this city, that workers can succeed in this city, that we can make life easier for people so they can have an opportunity at succeeding, because I believe that's the success. When our citizens succeed, that is the success of our city. And that's what moves me. That's why I got into politics, and that's what I want to bring my experience to the table, to make sure that as a city we are making life easier for people so they can succeed, because if we do that, the success of the city is limitless.
Right. So when you talk to people now, what do they give you the answer? Like when you ask them, is it easy for you to integrate now versus when I did it? What is the answer? Yes or no?
Um, it's hard because of the cost of living. When you're coming here and you look at the price of rent, the price of ownership, buying a home, the price of food. I mean, inflation has been increasing on everything. So I think that everybody still sees the greatness of the city, right? When they can't come here, and they feel the power of the people, right? Coming from over 150 countries, coming in here, and we learn from each other, and we support each other. But it is hard. It is making it harder, and that's why we need to tackle these challenges, because these are the challenges that will prevent us really giving opportunity.
Right. One thing that I really want to ask you, although you're in Canada, when it comes to gender parity, we are better off than a lot of countries, but we do have our own challenges. We cannot shy away from those challenges. You tell me, an immigrant woman, how was it for you to make your own space in the political arena?
It's not easy. I remember, the first time I ran, I still had people saying, why are you doing this? You should be thinking about getting married, and, not the political career. But, I think it's still a difference. I think women are significantly more scrutinized, from the way their hair looks or what they're wearing, to the way, if they're too emotional or less emotional. If a woman gets emotional and cries saying something, oh, they're weak. If a man does it, it's like, oh, he's so sensitive, so compassionate, right? So there's still different ways that people look at these things. I always try to focus on my passion and what moves me, and my goals. And I'm somebody that really might even say a little bit stubborn. Like I said, I don't take no for an answer. And for me, it's about getting results. And so I'm focused on that. And that's why I'll be a great mayor, because I'm focused on getting the results for people and getting these services and the housing built in the city.
Now, being a mayor is, of course, a non-partisan position that you will take, and you will be serving equally for each and every citizen. But to see a female in that position will send a strong message out to young females, young girls out there, even women out there, working professionals or staying at home, a strong message. So young women, especially who are watching this right now, what is your message for them? Because you know what? It's unfortunate to say, but I'm not surprised that even you got the advice of get married. Don't focus on the career. What is your suggestion,
You know what?
your advice to the young ladies?
For immigrant young women, don't take no for an answer. Follow your passions. Make sure you never forget where you came from. That was the advice that my grandmother would always give me. Never forget where you came from, and make sure that you follow what you believe, your values, and what's in your heart. And as much as people tell you no, we have a place at the table.
Right. And if you don't give us that place, we'll make our own table, pull the chairs, and invite more people.
Exactly. We'll make sure it is there. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing right now.
Interesting. And before I let you go, I know you have a packed day. You have been generous with your time here. But before I let you go, if you have a message for our audience, to especially people of Toronto who are watching us, why should they choose you as a mayor?
Well, I think we have a very clear choice this election. We can have somebody that is going to increase your taxes, make life less affordable, just be there as an opposition for everything that the province and the federal government is going to do. Or you can have me, who's going to be able to roll up my sleeves on day one because I have the experience. I can work with council. I can work with the other orders of government to fix our services like the TTC, services like our recreational centers, providing services for seniors, and building housing so that our youth can continue in our city, our workers can continue to live in our city, and just make life easier and more affordable. And I hope I can count on your vote on the 26th so we can continue to have a city of prosperity and opportunity.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. It was a lot of fun talking to you.
Likewise, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you. We were talking to Toronto's mayoral candidate, Anna BAILÃO. You listened to her, what her vision for the city of Toronto is, what her challenges were as a young immigrant woman, how she made her way to the field of politics, and what changes she will be bringing to the city of Toronto. With this, it's a wrap on the special edition of our series where we have been interviewing candidates who have thrown their hat in the ring for the race of Toronto's mayor. All right, then. The news and views continue on Y Media Group. Yes, you stay tuned with us.
Hi, this is Priyanka Chopra and you're watching Channel Y.
The biggest South Asian media group, Y Media. Y Media has newspaper, midweek, radio, South Asian Pulse.
Hi, I'm Amitabh Bachchan, and you're listening to South Asian Pulse.